Imagine building a skyscraper that can hold 50,000 screaming fans, equipped with a retractable roof and an underground elevator system. Now, imagine doing it 2,000 years ago, without electricity, without computers, and on top of a swamp. Most modern buildings are lucky to last 50 years before the first cracks appear. Yet this colossus still stands after 2 millennia of earthquakes, fires, and wars. How? The answer isn't just stone and mortar. It's a story of a blood-stained legacy, a stolen lake, and a secret chemical formula that modern engineers are still trying to perfect. This is how Rome built the impossible. The story begins in the year 68 AD. Rome was in chaos. The Emperor Nero, a man known for his cruelty and delusions of grandeur, had just committed suicide. He left behind a city in ruins and a massive self-indulgent monument to his own ego, the Domus Aurea, or the Golden House. At the heart of this palace was a giant artificial lake surrounded by parks and statues. It was a slap in the face to the Roman people, who had suffered while Nero lived in luxury. When Vespasian, a battle-hardened general, rose to power, he knew he needed a radical political move to secure his dynasty. He decided to erase Nero's legacy by literally building over it. He would drain Nero's private lake and build a stadium for the public. It was the ultimate propaganda move, taking back the land from a tyrant and giving it to the citizens. But there was a massive engineering problem that would haunt any modern contractor. You cannot build a 50-meter-tall stone giant on a muddy, waterlogged lakebed. It is a recipe for a structural disaster. Modern cities like San Francisco, New Orleans, or Venice struggle with sinking infrastructure every single day. If the ground shifts just an inch, the entire stone structure cracks and collapses. How did the Romans solve it? They didn't just build, they waged war against the earth. They dug 15 meters deep into the mud, removing millions of tons of soil until they hit the solid clay of the valley. To keep the water out, they built a massive elliptical cofferdam, a precursor to modern deep-sea engineering. Then they poured a massive donut-shaped ring of concrete, over 12 meters thick. This foundation was so stable that it survived a massive earthquake in 1349 that brought down half of the city's other buildings. While our modern bridges and skyscrapers crumble due to what engineers call concrete cancer, the rusting of internal steel, Roman concrete actually gets stronger over time. What was their secret? It wasn't just lime and water. They added pozzolana, a unique volcanic ash from the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. This created a chemical reaction that allowed the concrete to set even underwater, turning it into a synthetic rock that was virtually indestructible. Recent microscopic studies have revealed an even deeper secret: lime clasts. These small white chunks were once thought to be signs of poor mixing, but we now know they are the key to self-healing. When a crack forms and water enters, it reacts with the lime clasts to create a calcium-rich solution that fills the crack and hardens. The Colosseum is, in a sense, a living structure that repairs itself. Now, consider the sheer scale of the stone logistics. To complete this monster in just 10 years, the Romans had to operate like a modern industrial factory. They used over 100,000 cubic meters of travertine stone, quarried from Tivoli, 20 miles away. Each individual block weighed up to 5 tons. For 10 years, thousands of ox carts clogged the roads into Rome every single day. This was a logistical nightmare that would paralyze a modern city. To lift these massive blocks, they used hamster wheel cranes. These were giant wooden wheels, sometimes 20 feet high. Men would walk inside them, using their body weight to create massive torque, powering a system of pulleys that could hoist stones hundreds of feet into the air. One slip, one snapped rope, and dozens of workers were instantly crushed. The discipline wasn't just architectural, it was military. Every block was pre-cut at the quarry, numbered and fitted with surgical precision. It was the world's first massive prefabricated building project.
The architecture of the Colosseum was a mirror of Roman society, a physical manifestation of their strict hierarchy. Have you ever been to a modern stadium and spent an hour trying to leave through a single narrow exit? The Romans solved this 2,000 years ago with a design so efficient it is still the blueprint for every NFL or FIFA stadium today. They called their entrances vomitoria, not because of what happened inside, but because of how the building vomited its crowd out. 80 numbered arches allowed 50,000 people to find their seats and, more importantly, exit in less than 15 minutes. Your ticket was a small piece of pottery with a number that corresponded to an arch. It was the world's first masterclass in crowd management and social control. Even the seating was an engineering marvel of sociology. The senators sat on the lowest level, closest to the action, on marble benches. The middle class occupied the second and third tiers, while the poor, women, and slaves were relegated to the wooden benches at the very top. The building literally reinforced the class structure of the empire every time a game was held. But the most incredible part wasn't what was in the stands, it was what was happening under the floor. Beneath the wooden arena floor, covered in sand to soak up the blood, lay the hypogeum. This was a 2-story labyrinth of tunnels, cages, and mechanical rooms. It was a city beneath the city. Using a system of 28 manual elevators powered by slaves, the Romans could make 500-pound lions, leopards, or bears appear instantly in the middle of the arena through trap doors. It was first-century CGI, live, terrifying, and unpredictable. The floor itself was a marvel of modular engineering. They could remove the wooden planks entirely and, according to ancient records, flood the entire arena within hours. By connecting the stadium to a nearby aqueduct, they transformed the gladiator pit into a naval theater, recreating famous sea battles with real ships and real sailors. Imagine the engineering required to waterproof a stadium of that size, fill it with millions of gallons of water, and then drain it fast enough for a land-based gladiator fight the very next afternoon. We are talking about a level of hydraulic engineering that was lost for over 1,000 years after Rome fell. And if the Roman sun was too hot, they had the velarium. This was a massive, retractable awning made of linen and canvas. It wasn't operated by architects, but by a special detachment of sailors from the Roman Imperial Navy. They used the same complex rigging and pulley technology found on Roman warships to span the canvas across the top of the stadium, providing shade for the spectators while leaving a hole in the center to let air circulate. It was the world's first retractable roof, controlled by the wind and the muscle of elite mariners. Even today, the holes for the massive wooden masts that held up the roof are still visible in the upper tiers of the stone. The construction never stopped. While one crew was finishing the Doric columns on the first floor, another was already pouring concrete for the Ionic columns on the second. By the third floor, they used the ornate Corinthian style. This vertical progression wasn't just for beauty, it was a visual representation of the ascent of civilization. The higher you went, the lighter the materials became. The bottom was heavy travertine, the middle was brick and volcanic tuff, and the top was light concrete and wood. This ingenious weight stacking is why the building didn't crush itself under its own mass. The Romans understood the physics of gravity and tension better than many civilizations that followed them for centuries. They utilized the arch, a structural shape that distributes weight outward and downward, to create massive open spaces without the need for thick, solid walls. Beyond the stone and mortar, the Colosseum was an instrument of psychological warfare. Every game was a reminder of the emperor's power. He could bring beasts from the edges of the known world, leopards from Africa, tigers from India, bears from the frozen north, and have them killed in front of the Roman people.
It was a demonstration that Rome had conquered nature itself. But we must ask, at what cost? This gift to the people was built with the blood and sweat of over 60,000 Jewish slaves brought to Rome after the siege of Jerusalem. The gold used to fund the project was looted from the Temple of Solomon. The Colosseum was a monument to victory, a statement of absolute power, and a factory of death. It was the heart of the Roman political machine, designed to provide bread and circuses, keeping the masses fed and entertained so they wouldn't notice their freedoms disappearing.
As the centuries passed, the Roman Empire began to crumble. The games became less frequent as the coffers ran dry. In the 5th century, the last gladiator fight was held, and the Colosseum began its long decline. It was struck by lightning, damaged by fires, and rocked by massive earthquakes. During the Middle Ages, it was no longer a stadium. It was a fortress, a cemetery, and eventually a massive quarry. The beautiful marble seats were stripped to build the palaces of the Renaissance popes. The iron clamps that held the stones together were dug out, leaving the pock-marked holes you see today. Yet the core remained. It stands as a reminder that when you combine absolute military discipline with revolutionary chemical engineering, you don't just build a stadium, you build eternity. The Colosseum is more than just a ruin. It is a manual of ancient engineering written in stone. It shows us that the primitive past was often more sophisticated than our digital present. It challenges our modern arrogance. We think we are the first to master logistics, the first to manage crowds, the first to invent self-healing materials. But the Romans were there first, standing on the same ground, facing the same swamp, and building something that would outlast every empire that came after them. When you walk through the arches today, you are walking through a time machine. You can see the tool marks of a stonemason from 2,000 years ago. You can stand where a senator once sat, or where a slave once died. The engineering is still there, holding up the weight of history. The drainage system still works. The arches still balance the load. The concrete is still getting stronger. If you had a ticket to the Colosseum in AD 80, would you sit with the senators in the marble seats, or would you be in the top tiers with the plebeians? And looking at the crumbling infrastructure of our modern world, do you think we have truly surpassed the Romans, or have we lost the secret to building things that last forever? The Colosseum isn't just a testament to what humans can build. It's a testament to the endurance of ideas. It reminds us that even from the mud of a tyrant's lake, something eternal can rise. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to see more deconstructions of history's greatest engineering mysteries, hit that subscribe button and join our journey into the past. Every stone tells a story, and the story of the Colosseum is far from over.